Hey there, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year again. It's Tammy. The other day I had suggested that I was offline until after the holidays, and here I am. And that's because something came up yesterday that I wanted to talk about because it's just really playing heavily in my mind. And I wanted to share a little bit about my personal story as well as what my perception is, from my angle, the work that I do, and that is in the area of obesity. The topic that came to my desk yesterday was in the area of childhood obesity and the screening for the need of statins. Because they're checking cholesterol levels now, they're suggesting that we check cholesterol levels in children, and which may sound like a preventive, but the long-term effects of being on a statin doesn't bode well for these children. And it is a very sensitive topic for me because childhood obesity is part of my history. And you might look at me and go, that's hard to believe, but I will kind of give you a brief description as to how my life unfolded and how this came to be such a big deal for me. So when I was 7 years old, I weighed in at 87 pounds during one of our wellness checks when they paraded us all into the health office, and they checked our ears, our eyes, our teeth, our weight, called it out in front of the whole class, and then proceeded to put it on the report card. Well, the report card wouldn't have been so bad, but everybody in my class, hearing that I weighed at least 40 pounds more than the rest of them, was a bit unnerving. And the incessant teasing and ridicule that came after that was very traumatic. And because of my own psyche, my own psychological makeup, it hurt. It hurt a lot. And I've seen children be teased subsequently as an adult, and I just really want to come to their defense. And I feel the same way about people who are adults who are struggling with weight issues, because it is not what we claim it to be. I know there are some areas that want to refer to it as a disease, and that's a fair assessment. I prefer to call it a disorder. Disease, disorder, it really depends on how you define it. Regardless, though, there's a spectrum of reasons why someone would be living with a significant weight issue that makes them, puts them in jeopardy, possibly. And I say possibly because there are some people who are doing everything they can to maintain their health, and they're content. And that's the most important part. It's the way we look at it. It's the way we embrace it, the way we love ourselves. It's not for the rest of the world to look at somebody and point fingers and say that there's something wrong with that person, that they're doing something bad or wrong. So in the area of obesity, whether it be a child or an adult, it could be, as I've talked in other videos, could be an endocrine imbalance, because the adipose tissue is an endocrine organ. That means hormones. And I'm going to break this down in segments, because instead of kind of trying to retrace my thoughts. So in the area of endocrine imbalance as a child, where is that coming from? Well, it could be it could be a digestive issue that they were born with that may not be presenting itself classically as we would assume, but there could very well be something going on within the digestive system. It could be a vitamin D issue on that vitamin D receptor, and that's not functioning properly, which now affects the entire endocrine system. And when, like I said, though, it could also be a digestive issue, because the primary stimulation for hormone and neurotransmitter production is generated from the digestive system. So we could start there. We could also go further and say that somewhere beyond the immediate GI tract that we are familiar with, and look at how the cells are assimilating these nutrients. If there is a genetic issue, adaptation that is affecting the way cells are assimilating nutrients, now you have a misfire, a misuse of nutrients, and which could potentially offset the endocrine system. As the endocrine system becomes imbalanced, somebody might say, well, that child snacks a lot, they're always hungry. And there is a hormone called leptin that is the satiety hormone. And if that, again, now we're talking about a hormone, and if if there are issues in the endocrine system and the leptin isn't being produced properly, that child or adult is not feeling satisfied. And there's a number of reasons why you wouldn't feel satisfied. So it could very well be hormonal, and therefore now you're still hungry and you continue to eat. I've had so many people contact me and say, well, I don't have the willpower, and I just can't stop myself. Is this a factor in bulimia? It very well could be. Because see, my life went from being incredibly heavy for a number of years, between the ages of 7 and 17. And then beyond that, I went into severe eating disorders because I was tired of being teased. It was painful. Painful doesn't actually describe it. It was excruciating, but nobody ever knew it. I just buffered myself with what I enjoyed to the best of my ability, which was studying and kind of separating myself so I didn't have to listen to it. But in the meantime, I went into an eating disorder, which started out as anorexia. And so we talk about stress and thought processes, and that is going to affect the way the genes adapt, turn themselves off, inactivate and activate themselves. So now I've just affected my body further with the stress and the thoughts, the self-harming thoughts that I had of myself because of the way the world was looking at me. And now I've turned it into an eating disorder, and it rolled from there. And then once I started having children, I was truly hungry, and I think I was really hungry for more than just food, and I turned into bulimia. And the bulimia, of course, my purging wasn't the turn around and vomit in the bathroom. It was I didn't eat for days. So it was considered like an anorexia bulimic phase that I would go through. And it took me years to overcome that, and until I really got heavily involved in what I do now, and that is being able to nutritionally support myself. I had to make peace with food and understand that it was important for me and how it worked in understanding the chemistry of the food and how it works in my body and how it works hand in hand with the oils, and really helping to regulate my hormonal system in order to overcome those particular weight challenges that I was having, as well as manage my psychological makeup, my mental, emotional health. That's the word. That's what I was looking for. So anyway, going back to digestive issues and the way the hormonal imbalances can affect leptin, which affects the way people feel satisfied with food, and if they're not feeling satisfied, it could trigger a bulimic reaction. And then long term, the thoughts and the stress that come from that could certainly turn it into an eating disorder. The other thing with regards to the foods, I know a lot of people would say that our food sources are lacking and lack nutrition, and and there's good argument in that one. And my response to that is you have to work with what you got right now. I'm all about, being an activist and advocating for healthier food sources, cleaner supplies, organic. I am, I'm right there on, can jump on that bandwagon very easily. And I am on that bandwagon. At the same time, though, it's very important to remember that you have to work with where you are and you have to work with what you've got. Yes, introducing these children to healthier food choices is imperative. Whether or not they're getting exposed to and still not feeling satisfied, that remains on that individual, and that one needs to be, uniquely assessed. So, but the fact is we do have to take into consideration that a lot of the food does lack nutritionally, and we now have a population of people, albeit child or adult, that is really hungry. They seriously are hungry because the best they can get is these lesser expensive foods. I remember being in the grocery store, and somebody had a packet of donuts. They had gone into the bakery area and had picked up donuts, and then they had a bunch of grapes. And when the total came up for the grocery bill, it was more than she could afford, and she had to go for the cheaper food because she needed more food. She had a family to feed, and the amount of fruit and vegetables that she had wasn't significant enough to actually source her family. So she opted for the less nutrient-dense foods. Now, if you go into the store anywhere, it doesn't make any difference what store you go into. I mean, even the health food stores, they do have some of the lesser expensive foods, and they are also lacking nutritionally. And we could pick apart labels, and maybe I will actually do a video on those labels at some point, not revealing particular names of brands or anything, but just being able to help people identify various nutrients or ingredients rather that are, kind of less than favorable. I'll say it that way. Pardon me, I need something to drink. Obviously, something's in my throat. So with that said, because of the economic issues and whatnot, there's a lot of people that only have access to certain types of food. And so now they really are hungry. To sit back and ridicule people because they eat a lot, or they're eating a lot of the what we call wrong foods, is not effective at all. It's not making a difference in anyone's life. It's just actually, in my opinion, compounding the problem. So now you have a whole nother factor that you have starving bodies, even though they don't look like they're starving. I mean, we talk about malnutrition around the world, but this country is equally as malnourished due to the food supply. So again, how is that, playing into everyone who's living with an obesity issue? We can't determine that unless you speak to the individual. So, like I said, it can start with a digestive issue. It can also, the digestion could be fine. It could be a vitamin D receptor issue, which would offset the endocrine system. It could very well be just an endocrine issue, period, that would create imbalances with any one of the hormones, in which case it could be the thyroid, right? We know that. It may not be leptin. It could very well be the thyroid and the parathyroid glands. And it could be the fact that you're not utilizing calcium properly. Calcium is necessary for fat metabolism. So there again, we have a different endocrine issue. It may not be the leptin. So somebody, so going back to the whole cholesterol factor, cholesterol is necessary for producing the right hormones, okay? So if you actually put somebody on a statin, you can be affecting other issues within the body long term. Because when we inhibit the production of cholesterol, we are reducing the ability to produce hormones. We're impacting neurotransmitter production, as we've seen with statins affecting the use of coenzyme A, which then turns around and affects the cholinergic receptors. It excites them because now there's too much acetylcholine, and acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter. So here again, you have a snowball effect of what could potentially happen. And, I'm a big believer in pharmaceuticals. I mean, that's where I got my start, was working in pharmacology, and I continue to study it professionally. And so I believe in the two worlds working together. But to put a child on a statin right now is not, I don't believe, is recommended. Unless they're severely high. But just as a preventive, no. I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it. There is a reason for everything. And if you test a child and their cholesterol levels are out of this world and they're in danger, then definitely, put them on a statin, and let's develop other ways to actually help nourish that body and regulate that cholesterol on its own. But using the statin as a step down, as opposed to long term. So I do want to make sure that I say that, because I just got off of a call with somebody that thought I was kind of like was concerned that I might actually be adversarial to other health professionals, and that's not the case. I see reason for everything. I see both sides to everything. And I want to maintain that perspective, because that's only fair to both the professional as well as the patient. Because, like I said, there are times when a statin is necessary. So to come out and say that, childhood statins, no, 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 no. Well, if there's good cause, then definitely. But again, teaching them how to eat, giving them the right nutrients, and even putting them on essential oils that are very, very specific to them and that's in line with their family history, so that they can offset and prevent any future breakdown and actually help the body regulate itself hormonally, really utilizing cholesterol as it's meant to be used, as opposed to inhibiting the production and then just throwing the entire neuroendocrine system out of balance. So there is a way for the oils, as I've mentioned, to work collectively with the medications. And that is the biggest point I want to make here, is that the two worlds do come together. They don't collide in a bad way. They come together in a good way. And they come together in that we actually ultimately benefit. And so if you are a physician or know someone who's a physician, it's really important that they recognize and understand that that's really my platform here. And as I've mentioned before, it could also be, obesity could be related to an eating disorder, it could be an addiction, it stem from psychological pain that's occurred due to stress, whatever has occurred in that person's history, and that stress has now altered the way the genes are expressing themselves, and the result has turned into what we call, stuffing our emotions. And even though there is that aspect to it, there is there's an intelligence behind that, in the sense that the body wisdom is letting is indicating that there's an imbalance, and really helping to regulate that neuroendocrine system again, to ease the mental emotional pain and actually help rewrite the adaptations that occurred due to the stress that happened prior, as well as currently. And, like I said, the other factor is medications. Medications can cause an inflammatory reaction in the body, because medications are designed based on the way plants affect the body. They activate or inactivate various receptors, and the result of that does create reactions further down the chain, which can present with potential oxidative stress, inflammation, and as well as a buildup of toxins, and the body is unable to flush that for, again, a number of reasons. We talk about the lymph system, and so this is where the oils come in, because the oils can actually help move the lymph system and help flush those toxins out. And they can also help the body, support the body in those alterations that have occurred due to the way the medications are affecting that down the line, thereby supporting the effects of the medication, as well as benefiting the body to eliminate those toxins on their own, reducing inflammation. And now you have a reduction of weight, of fat tissue, because now you have the toxins are being flushed, because a lot of things are stored in the fat tissue. The fat tissue is not only just used for energy, it's actually also used to house toxins when the body can't flush it. So now we have another issue. It could be a lymph system issue. So these are a lot of factors that are going on. Can that happen in somebody at a very young age? Sadly, yes. The world we live in right now is not a perfect world, in the sense that everything is, all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. We have a lot of technology there's a lot of crossed wires, and learning how to work within the parameters of what we've been given, and stop trying to strong arm our way into another arena that is possible for the future. But for right now, we have to work with what we have. There's no point in anybody living a less than healthy life because of their weight issues. It is, and I'm not saying that skinny is the healthy, because skinny can be just equally as unhealthy. It's just an indicator that somebody's starving themselves. So, or they could be sick, or they're not getting the nutrients because of genetic adaptations. So, skinny is not healthy, and either. I mean, it can be. It's healthy is determined by the internal world. It's determined by the mental, emotional, and internal chemistry. It's not about what we look like. A lot of autoimmune disorders, people look fine, and they hear that all the time. So again, weight is not a factor for determining wellness. The size and shape of your body is not a determining factor for wellness. It's really about how things are functioning, whether or not you're actually utilizing the nutrients appropriately, how well you're flushing toxins or not flushing toxins, and this is a factor with all of us, whether we are dealing with our own children or dealing with ourselves as children or as adults. This is a very important piece, because how the body is utilizing the chemistry that it's ingesting, that it's consuming, whether it be through ingestion, inhalation, as well as application, how it's using that, how it's, because how it takes all of those chemicals in affects the chemicals that it produces, and whether or not it can actually eliminate what it doesn't need. So I want to reiterate what I've said in the past, which is the oils do not contain nutrients. They contain the active ingredients that actually help activate and modify genetic expression so that the body can actually utilize the nutrients on a cellular basis. They act in the same way that medications act. It's just that the difference is that it's more of a synergistic development that works. It's not just one constituent that's working. There's a whole series of constituents that are working, and that's the reason why it's really important to know what you're working with, because so many oils contain similar constituents, and so you have to know more about what's happening within the body, understanding, having a really strong relationship with your body in order to be able to regulate and choose the best oils for you. So there again, they do not contain the nutrients. They actually contain the active ingredients that modify genetic expression, and they are what pharmaceuticals are modeled after. And they work hand in hand with medications, because where the medications lack in certain certain ingredients, the oils contain. And so that's why they work together. That's why they also work with the food and supplements, because they don't contain the nutrients, but the foods do. So here and now you have why medications and oils and food all work together. It's not about one or the other. It's about learning about what the body is actually needing, what we're trying to overcome, and really supporting it to do what it's designed to do. In the area of childhood obesity, this is one of the greatest learning curves that they can be given, because you would actually be setting them up for a healthier future, and a powerful future that they can really give to our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren, and perpetuate and preserve the species in a way that's more conducive to well living. So a quality of life, optimal wellness, if you will. So with that said, I bid you adieu. I wish you the best of holidays. And if you have any questions, I do want to hear from you. It's very important. I'm not going to make any oil suggestions at this point, because we're talking about too many different factors that play into how the body produces its own chemistry that it needs, produces the wrong chemistry that it doesn't need, that it can eliminate, and being able to activate and flush the system. So again, we've talked about lymph, we've talked about obesity, we've talked about and those are the eating disorders, and how and hormonal balance. So I mean, these are all very, very important. And again, if you have any questions, let me know. Have a fabulous holiday. I don't know if I'm going to have another one to share with you between now and the end of the year, but if I do, I will see you then. Until then, enjoy yourselves and be well. Talk to you soon. Bye now.